Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of TTM Talks, brought to you by Top Tier Motorsport, where we talk all things F1 and TTM. As always, joining me this week, we have the wonderful TTM Brenda
Hello there.
and the also wonderful, TTM Billy.
Hi there.
Uh, and this week, we're going to be talking about our ideas that we want to see in F1 2021, as it's in development at the moment, and we want to talk about some of the ideas that we would like to see. But before we get into that, gotta have our weekly bit of waffle. So last week with Tez, we did this little game where I give you a scenario, and you have to pick three. Well, last week we did three people in F1. But this week I'm changing it up a little bit. So this is a question for both of you. So you start in your own band, and you need to fill three spots with F1 drivers. You need a lead singer, and then like two people to play instruments, and you can pick what instruments they play. But you have to pick your F1 drivers from either a top team, a midfield team, or a backmarker team. And you can also pick anyone throughout like time. So say if you pick, I don't know, Alonso, because technically he's not an F1 driver. Yeah, but if you picked Alonso, you could say, "Oh, I'm picking Alonso when he was at Renault," which would be a front-running team.
So any F1 driver that's ever competed in an F1 race, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
if you pick from like last year's grid, like I don't know, Verstappen would have to be in the Red Bull, so he'd be classed as a
Yeah.
top tier driver if you get me. So yeah, you need to both pick a lead singer, can be from midfield, top, bottom, and then two people to play instruments, and what instruments they'd play from the other two sections of the grid, if you will.
Right, okay. Do you want
This
to go first, Pete, or do you want me to?
I mean I've got like lead singer, but
I've got a lead
uh,
singer as well, and I
my
think
lead
I might have drums.
my lead singer is um a bit of a not a reference, but it's kind of obscure knowledge. If you know well, unless you know a lot about F1.
Okay. See, my lead singer's sort of a little bit of a meme reason for picking him.
You go first. I'll keep thinking.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think I'd have to have Daniel Ricciardo on drums.
Oh, interesting. See, I'll if I was doing this, I'd put him as singer because I've seen his like Instagram post where he just sings and it's hilarious. Um,
Yeah, I did think of that, but then I thought who I'm picking for lead singer is even more hilarious than Daniel Ricciardo.
so that's your midfield driver selected.
My midfield driver is Daniel Ricciardo on drums. My lead singer is Kimi Raikkonen.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, lead singer is Kimi Raikkonen because why not? Who wouldn't want Kimi Raikkonen as the lead singer of your band? Especially if it was a rap band. I feel he'd be really good at rap.
That is a very good choice to be fair.
Uh, and to be honest, for my final one, I feel that you have to go guitar, but I'm not too sure on who to choose for that. But I feel that possibly, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go for Jensen Button on
Ooh,
guitar.
you know, I'm sure
Okay.
he probably dabbles a bit in all of his spare time.
Yeah,
Um,
I was possibly thinking Lando Norris, but that'd be too much of a meme team. I feel Kimmy singing and Ricardo on drums with Lando as well.
and Brenda, what are you going for?
Well, I keep thinking of I keep thinking of people and then forgetting them pretty much instantly. But like when you first said about the vocals or like lead singer, my instant thought was Jacques Villeneuve. Because if when he was at Williams,
Yeah,
um, if you don't know, Jacques Villeneuve he obviously raced in F1 and he won the championship in '97 with Williams. And then sometime after that, I'm not entirely sure when, but he actually released. Um, it may have been a single or it may have been a few songs, but he actually released a few songs.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that somewhere before. I don't know. I feel like
Yeah,
it's just one song.
I think it was. I think it was just a single, but that was my instant reason for putting him as lead singer.
So he could be from
Um,
your top team.
yeah, and I'll put. I know Leclerc, okay, when he was at Sauber, because that's
I
midfield.
mean, you could put him in Ferrari as well this year, last year. We'll take him as a
Yeah, that's
midfielder.
true actually. We'll put midfielder position, but Leclerc because I know that he plays piano.
Oh, and he's my
Um,
favourite.
he might be. I may or may not be wearing a Leclerc hat right now.
Oh, I'm surprised I
Um,
didn't get that sort of reaction when I said Daniel Ricciardo, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, I was this close, but uh, no. And then I can't think of um, I can't think of a drummer really. I don't know who anyone who would be especially good at drums. Maybe I I mean one of my thoughts was Latifi, just for the fun of it, because why not? Or or Russell, one of those two.
Yeah,
I mean, I've already had one Canadian, so I'll go with Russell. Russell on the drums.
yeah. Get that nationality varied up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, lovely stuff. And just finally, before we move on to actual podcast related stuff, what are both? Well, I'm sure we've done it before with, or we know that your favourite drivers are Leclerc and Ricardo / Norris. But what's your favourite F1 track? It can be past, present, or doesn't even have to be F1 track. Just favourite track in general.
Okay, I went first last time, so Pete can go first this time.
I don't. I There's not very many tracks I really dislike. I think Monaco is definitely up there because of like its heritage and just how precise you need to be with it.
And for all
Um,
those exciting races that it's held.
yeah, all the exciting races where but I feel like Monaco is kind of where um F1 drivers sort of made. Like if they are a good or a really good F1 driver, they usually do very well in Monaco. So I would probably say Monaco for my favorite track, to be honest.
I mean, fair enough. I don't like Monaco, but if you if you want to have Monaco as your favourite, that's your
That's
choice.
that's that's because you were on pad. You'll enjoy it now. Well, now you're on wheel.
If you say so. And Billy, what's your favourite track?
Okay, see, opposite to Brenda, I've sort of got a few least favourite tracks, then sort of just neutrals. And then, to be honest, I've got three that I really like that I do find it quite hard to dis- I'm not even going to bother saying that word.
Distinguish.
My mouth has decided it doesn't want to be able to say it tonight for some reason. Yeah, you can cut that bit out if you want, or leave it in. Everyone
Leave
can
it
laugh
in.
at me.
Leave
I
it
don't
in.
Yeah,
mind.
leave
Leave
it
it in.
Everyone can laugh at me. I don't mind. Sure. It'd probably be a split between Hungary, Russia, and Austria,
in. Oh,
which is odd. I think to have those three as like joint favorite tracks, as they're all quite different from each other.
yeah. I'm surprised Russia's made it up there because I know a lot of people don't. Is it don't like Russia? Is it more of a? I suppose.
Oh, see, when you say favorite track, I'm thinking of it from two sort of
Yeah,
perspectives.
because
It's
there's.
to watch on TV and actually to race at on F1.
Yeah.
To
What?
race at Russia is one of my favorite tracks, without a doubt. I just find overtaking there really easy.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that. But now moving on to our first bit of business for this week. We're just gonna cover some F1 news. Again, off season, so not a lot's happening. But we did get Jenson Button re-signing at Williams, but not as a driver this time, as more of a, what would you call it? Not
Senior advisor, isn't he?
senior advisor. That's the word I'm looking for. Um, so he'll be there to do some ambassadorial roles, so like turn up to some events, get some press going for Williams, and to be there not to decide key decisions that will be made, but to give his thoughts on them. What do we think of this news? Do we think it's good for Williams?
Definitely, in my opinion.
I think any progress for them is good progress at this point. And I think they're on their way back up. They were a lot closer in 2020 to the rest of the field than they were in 2019. And
Yeah.
obviously Jensen with his experience in F1, he's going to be quite good, I think. So
Also, with him being a crowd favourite, I feel he's definitely one of the all-time crowd favourites.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think it's good for them as well. They've obviously got this new investment from Doralton Capital, I think it's their name is. Um,
yeah,
so
something like that.
fingers crossed in the next few years they can make their way up. The only thing I don't think they're gonna go to him for like major decisions. They're just gonna be like, "What's your thoughts on this?" But he last drove a car in 2017 at Monaco, so some of his experience might not be as up to date as, I don't know, if someone just say for like Hamilton retired and went into an ambassadorial role at Williams. He'd probably have a lot more experience with current cars, obviously. But yeah, I think it's a good thing for Williams. Hopefully they can
Yeah,
start moving forward.
I
Uh,
feel it could work for Russell as well.
yeah, definitely. Because
Having someone like Button there to sort of advise Russell with some of his decisions and race preparation, maybe, I feel that could really help Russell.
yeah, because he's not been doing anything wrong. I think he's had quite a good career so far. But obviously having that, he's always been the team leader. I know he had Kubica last year, but he hadn't driven an F1 car in quite a long time. Whereas Jensen's done, so many races. He's world champion. He's fought at the front for many years. So I think that will be a good mentor role that he can provide, and possibly turn Russell into a future world champion.
Hopefully.
But now we come on to the main topic of this week, which is F1 2021. So obviously TTM, we all race on the F1 2020 game, and at the moment the next game will be in development. Obviously it's going to EA, although Codemasters has been bought out from EA by EA, which hopefully won't have too much of an impact on the game, or if it does, it will only be positive. But we're just going to talk about some of the things that we'd like to see changed or improved upon going from 2020 to 2021. Because obviously, I don't know how many F1 games you've played. I know, Brenda, you've not played that many.
No, my first one was 2018, and um, I didn't really play that a lot. I started sort of playing competitively on 2019, so I've only been in it for a year or two.
And Billy, what about you? How many years have you
Uh,
been
I
playing
only
F1?
I only actually started playing in late April of last year when first lockdown, had us all just dying for something to do essentially, and that's how I've met Brinder, and he then I played online with him for a bit. Then we found TTM, and it sort of spiraled from there really, and then I spent far too much money on it all.
Yeah, so luckily for you guys, you haven't had to go through some of the past games, because long story short, my dad used to work for Codemasters, so I basically got all the Codemasters games. Um, and when they
Is
stopped,
this why you're so quick? Have you got all the cheat codes?
yeah, I say pad hacks, but they're really game hacks. I know how to like turn acceleration up and all that.
Ah,
But yeah, from what it started out in 2009, I think the first Codemasters F1 game was, and it was on a slow trajectory of getting better and better. Arguably, it might have before I think this year's and last year's game, 2013 was the best. But then, lucky for you guys, you missed out on 2014 and 2015 because they were awful games.
I played 2009 on the Wii.
Yeah.
That was a dreadful game.
Well,
But I didn't know at the time, but looking back on it and playing it again, not recently, but like just to see what it was like, it was a terrible game.
yeah. Well, I don't know if how much you've seen of previous games, but in 2015, there was no career mode, which I don't know why they didn't think to put a career mode in. But anyway, after that, obviously we had 2016, which was sort of a turning point. 2017 was another good year, and then 2018 introducing, better career modes. 2019, just it's kind of been on an upward trajectory in terms of single player at least. So Billy, why don't you start us off with something that you'd like to see changed or improved upon in 2021?
When I say changed, it's not really something that they could have done for this game, but obviously a lot of league races last season followed a planned season, not the season that we actually ended up having in real F1. So I think maybe giving people the chance to drive some of those tracks that the real F1 season went to. I know Imola is planned for next season in real life now, so hopefully that'll be put into the game. But I'd like to drive on the sort of Turkey, Mugello. Where else did they go? That was sort of a one-off.
Nürburgring, Portimao.
Nürburgring, Portimao. Yeah. I'd like to see those tracks sort of added, even if they're not to as high a quality graphics-wise to the standard tracks, but the actual template still being fully built, sort of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I don't see why they can't do it. In 2013, they had classic tracks, and the one reason why 2013 is one of my favourite F1 games of all time is because of those classic tracks. I think where was there? There was Imola, Jerez, Estoril, which I think is a Portuguese track, and Brands Hatch. I think it was Brands Hatch.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, having those tracks on the calendar, or they weren't on the calendar, but in the game, it kind of mixed up for things that you could do. And I remember Imola and Estoril even being great tracks to drive, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it would be great to see them implemented. I'd like to see all the tracks that we had in our COVID season on there, but I don't think it will happen. I think we'll probably get Imola, and I think they might change the Bahrain short track to the outer circuit. But
Yeah,
I don't see why they couldn't take. I know they're quite a few years old, but game files from 2013, 2012 to get Turkey and stuff, and kind of update them for obviously new generation consoles. So fingers crossed. Although knowing EA, we'll probably get them as DLCs afterwards. Brenda, why don't you take us through something that you'd like to see changed?
To be honest, after 2020, I would like a game that is actually stable and works, especially on online, um, because 2020 online has been so bad. I think in comparison to like their older games, 2019, especially 2019 was very good. Obviously, I don't know all the other games, but for me, 2019 stands out as the best so far. So yeah, I would kind of like that consistency back. But in terms of anything that they could add, I think the customization and things like that from 2019 and other games was a bit lost in 2020. They've obviously done this podium pass sort of idea, which I don't personally like. I think you're paying for a game and then you're being not forced, but if you want extra content, you then have to pay even more to get it, which is not something I like. So especially with like helmets and things like that, they had a lot more variety in 2019 in terms of helmet customization and helmets you could choose. You know, when you got into the game, you could have any of them that you liked. So you could change all the colors and everything like that. So I think they should bring that back and possibly add a few more um, designs to it, as well as with the cars. I think you should be allowed a bit like I think it's Gran Turismo, where you could just literally completely design it yourself.
Yeah,
You're just given like a blank character, and then you could just put any color, any shape, anything you want on it. And it, for those who don't want to do that, they can still have the other features of like just a simple um just change the color, and it's just basically a pre-made design. But for those who like want to take the time to make a nice helmet or a nice car, I think that would be really good. I know, especially myself, and I think TTM Dave, we were talking about ages ago that we would literally spend hours designing these things and have on other games. And I think I may have said the same to you, Josh. I'm not entirely sure though,
yeah.
but
This is sorry.
I'm pretty sure that most of us would spend hours and hours and hours just creating designs.
Yeah, I was going to bring up about the Gran Turismo customization. Like, if any of you follow Tommy from WTF1, I love his helmet designs that he does for, like, if Ricardo went to Ferrari or whatever. Um, and I think that could be a good compromise. You could, because I don't feel like they'll want to get rid of the podium pass, because obviously it's an additional way for them to generate money. Um, so I think they could keep that in and have like basic suits and helmets and stuff for sort of like the less serious people to
Yeah,
buy.
average player.
Yeah, so like for those who are like casual, just hop on the game every now and again. Uh, I think that could be a good compromise, because yeah, I would spend hours and hours just designing helmets. Because this year I found, if you've watched the TTM streams, you might not have noticed, but especially at the start of the year, my helmet changed like race to race because I can never settle on one that I really liked. Whereas I could like customize it completely, uh, I'd make one that I'd really like and then only change it for like special events. So I think that would be good. And personally, moving on, or expanded on customization as well. We touched on cars liveries, but I'd really like to see you be able to change the way the car looks, and this kind of ties into career mode as well. So at the moment, we've obviously got these bog standard 2020 cars um, that all look the same. You can just like change the livery on it and colours and stuff. But I'd like to maybe like split the car up into like 3 or 4 sections. You could have like the front, the middle, and the rear wing, the rear end, and you could pick from different teams already on the grid and like mix and match it sort of. So you could have like Mercedes style front nose and wing, but then you could have like a Ferrari midsection and a AlphaTauri rear wing, and then that could also link into career mode, which although career mode has got a lot better, I think if you incorporated this in, it could like spice it up even more. So I used to play Motorsport Manager, and on PC it was great because at the end of the season you could design your new car, and it would give you these options like, or you can change the rake of the car, and it will have this effect on stats. Your downforce might go up, but your straight line speed might go down. So I think if you could chop and change bits of the car, that'd be quite cool. Because then you could get to the end of the season and be like, okay, first season I've had this bog standard car that's performed decently, but I could change to a Renault front wing, which will give me, I don't know, high straight line speed, but might have like a mystery downside that you don't find out until you start doing more running with the car, if you get me. I feel like that could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I also feel like that could definitely add to a career mode, like you said. I think the career mode or the My Team career mode that was implemented for 2020 was a very good idea, and it was very, very popular, and still is with career modes. But if you add that sort of idea in as well, where the car is split up into a certain amount. I think they should, building on that, like I think they should add in a sort of way of, you can start like anywhere on the grid, if you get what I mean. So
Yeah,
your car can be the best car on the grid, or it could be the slowest car on the grid. Because in the My Team, your car is always at the bottom, and you have to work your way up. Whereas, I think if you had that idea of being able to mix and match the car and make it yourself, you could have a bit of like a brawn story
yeah,
where
definitely.
you get to the first Grand Prix and you're just the quickest car there instantly.
Yeah, and then it could be a thing that like you have the quickest car, but because you, I don't know. I mean, you could tweak it however you wanted. You could, you could rock up with the best facilities and everything, or you could just have it so that you could pick that you're the best car on the grid, but because you've not got the facilities to like design the car throughout the season, you sort of start to drop off.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good idea. And again, I feel like that would be very popular amongst the community, and it would kind of, it would find out how people would like to play the game. Like, would they prefer to start off instantly at the front and sort of drop off towards the end of the season, or would they rather build their way up and stay consistently at the top later on? Um, I feel like it would be a really good addition um, to the game mode.
Yeah, because then also building on that, um, one thing I liked from I kind of liked from 2019, um, was sort of the story element, because obviously you started off in F2, and you had your teammate and a rival, and you then all progress up to F1. So I feel like that story is the one thing that's kind of missing from this year. But if you could have it so that um, the more parts from a team that you use, so say if you use Mercedes front wing and a Mercedes rear end, but you've got like, I don't know, a Renault middle bit, the more parts that you have, the more likely it is the FIA might like investigate you, a bit like the Racing Point situation this year or last year. So you can like play that game of, oh, I'm using these two parts which work well together, so I get a faster car, but I could be penalised.
Yeah, maybe try and add in a sort of um, a way to find loopholes. So, for instance, like the weighbridge in normal Formula One, every car is weighed. Well, not every car, but a car is weighed at random to make sure that you're within the rules. But I think if they added a sort of way that you could find a loophole in sort of the regulations, and then you sort of risk using that in a race, will you get like found out or will you get away with it? I think that would be like, is kind of what we, or what you already said. Um, I think that would be a really cool sort of thing to do because it would add a little bit of mystery to it. And I think, yeah, like you said with the story, I think they are missing that. Um, and now I think teammate rivalries and stuff, you could have like cut scenes, things like that, where your teammate, um, if you crash into each other, for example, your teammate comes up to you and like is a bit annoyed with you and things like that. I think that'd be a really cool idea.
Yeah, and also you could have it like, if your facilities are more developed, you could sort of see more of how the car will be affected. So I kind of touched upon like these mystery downsides, but you could like design your car at the start of the season and be like, these are the known positives that we have, and these are like some of the known negatives. But there are like unknowns as well that you'll only discover as you get like rank up more miles, because then it might encourage people to do practice more as well. Because I know personally, I only do like, what is it, the track acclimatization, race strategy, and quali sim. But if you're learning actually about your car as you do practice, it might incline people to do more practice.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also, pre-season testing could be another thing they can add. I think that
Yes,
would be a really cool addition.
yes, this is something that I was gonna touch on as well. Uh, Not necessarily
So,
even. No, 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 no. It's all good. I was gonna bring it up next. Not even necessarily you driving it. You could have like the option if you wanted to drive it. Um, but you could at the end of the season or at the start of the season, you could be like, "This is the car that we're designing. It's got Ferrari front end, Renault rear end, and then a Red Bull middle. we think it's going to be decent in the corners, but might lack something on the straights. And then you could go into testing, and you could be like, okay, as well as being good in the mid speed corners, it's good in the low speed corners, but it lacks top speed and has a bit of a weakness in the high speed corners. And then that could be something that you could then target through R&D throughout the year.
Yeah, they could also use the existing the what is it, 4 categories I think they have at the moment in the
Yeah,
R&D section. They could use those, so you could have like a Red Bull chassis, and then like uh you could choose that chassis and then have the aerodynamics or something else. It's different to what we've been saying, but like you could choose a chassis and then choose your front wing, um engine supply, things like that. So you basically just get full customization of the car.
yeah, that is. I feel like we might end up seeing a little bit of it. I don't think. Well, I hope we'll see it as like this whole integrated system where it's all interconnected. But I feel like we'll at least see that you can change the front wing, because I feel like a lot of teams going from 2019 to 2020 changed their front wing philosophy from that sort of Ferrari style thumb nose to more of a Mercedes style front wing. So I feel like they'll include that at least. But moving on, I'd also like to see more unpredictability during a career mode season, because a lot of the times I don't feel like you get many. Well, at least I don't get many reliability issues. Um,
No, if you change your components and sort of keep up to date with everything, you're usually okay, really, and you don't get. I think what you're saying, like spontaneous uh problems with the car, so you get like an engine failure when a bit like Perez in Abu Dhabi, like they've just put a new engine in the car and then it fails like a few laps in.
yeah, definitely,
Really unlucky.
because I found with this year's game, you can always. I think the only ever time I've had an engine failure is in practice, um, and the rest of the time I'll let it get to like, I don't know, 60-70%, chuck a new one in, and then start at the back, and it's, I don't mind fighting my way through, but I feel like having that, you know unpredictability that, oh, yeah, your new MGUK that you've just put in has gone, could be quite cool. And I think also lowering maybe the I don't know how to put it, the puncture range. So I feel like at some tracks at least, you can push the tyres quite far, and although it'll come up as like, I think it's when you hit 60%, it'll be like, oh, you could get a puncture. At some tracks, you can get it into the 70s, even 80s, and you don't get a puncture.
Yeah, I think they just need to make it, if they want to make it like F1, almost like an F1 simulator, they need to add all of these different things to make it like the real thing where you can get a puncture, um, possibly even after putting the tires on. You know, if you run over like a bit of debris,
Yeah,
that could be it. You could get a puncture. Um, but yeah, I definitely know what you're saying, because when you get to about 60%, it gives you a warning to say like they're pretty worn, but they can still keep going. And then I think the puncture range is from like 75 to 100%.
yeah.
And
So,
most of the time you can go until about 80 to 90% with relative safety.
so
Um,
moving on, um, Billy, is there anything else that you'd change? It could be multiplayer related or single player outside career mode.
To be honest, I haven't actually even started my team or a career mode on New Game, which is why I've been quite quiet while you've been speaking about it, as I have no real input or sort of knowledge on what it was you were speaking about and would like to see changed.
Is there any,
So
apart from more stable lobbies, any, I don't know, I don't know what they could do.
I feel maybe try harder to sort the people they're putting into lobbies.
Yeah,
Obviously, I know ranked lobbies tend to be better than a standard open lobby, but if you just sort of jump into a lobby because you fancy quickly doing a few laps and just want to race some people, and then first corner every time in an open lobby, you can almost guarantee that you and 90% of the field are going to be taken out by someone. So I feel maybe having the safety rating actually work a bit better.
yeah, definitely. Oh, you could even do something like I don't know if you I don't know how they police it, but like if you're constantly getting into accidents and stuff, it could be like you then get put in a separate lobby where it's just everyone who does demolition derbies to kind of try and get rid of those people.
Yeah,
I was trying to think of I had another idea. Oh, the whole league system. Now, I don't know much about this, but I feel like seeing as well, I don't know if do you know of any like F1 leagues that use the actual league system on the game?
We used to. Oh, I when I first started actually getting into um, I think competitive racing, I guess you could call it. I did start off using that function, just joining people um who had made leagues with that function. One of my first sort of competitive leagues was using that function. So um, it works. It does and it doesn't. I think the league function I think only works with multiplayer cars, or at least it did on 2019. I'm not sure about 2020.
I think
Um,
when we were racing on that league function, we were using standard cars.
oh no, you can't. That was it. You can't unless if you want the official cars, you have to have the AI racing with you. There is no way to get rid of the AI, or at least there wasn't, from what I remember. If you want just an online lobby with 5 or 6 people, but you don't want AI, you have to use the multiplayer cars.
Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like they could. Obviously, they've got their Cody's forums, but I feel like they could integrate that into the game so it's easier to get word out about leagues. So like someone might be interested in joining a league but might not know how to do it. Whereas if you had like a dedicated page where you could be like, here's people who are starting leagues or have got leagues running. Uh, Here's how to contact them, and you could like use the in-game messenger system because obviously you can get messages like, "Oh, there's been an update," or "driver stats have been changed." So you could do that. And you could be like say you can message Tez, who's TTM League owner, and be like, "Oh, have you got any spaces?" or "Tell me more about this." Um, I think one of the, I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I feel like one of the big issues with it as well is if there's a penalty, you can't apply that afterwards. So say if like there's a collision, the game doesn't give a penalty, but it's penalty
Yeah.
worthy. You can't then add it on afterwards. I don't think.
No, I don't think you can. The only thing you can do is like give grid penalties, I think, for the next race. But I think I'm kind of understanding what are you trying to say, like, instead of just scrap the whole sort of league idea, because I don't think anyone really uses it, and sort of turn it into a not a search, but like a listing, so you
Yeah,
can apply for a league, and
yeah,
then um, the league owner can look at your profile, look at your stats, and just see whether you have a chance at joining.
yeah. Kind of that. I mean, that wasn't. It was kind of half the point that I was trying to get across, but having like you could have your stats, you could have your safety ratings. You could even have. I know. Well, TTM don't do this, but other leagues I've been in, it goes off of pace. So you sometimes have to do, I don't know, like a time trial lap at 3 different tracks and then submit your lap time. So it could be like it saves them. So the league owners could look at it and be like, oh, this person's got a decent safety rating. Obviously, a lot of leagues don't do what we do with trial races. So they could be like, oh, they've got a decent safety rating. They're pretty quick, so we can put them in our top tier. But the point
Yeah.
about leagues that I was trying to get across is like, so next season for TTM at least, obviously we'd have, although I suppose it wouldn't work with people moving around tiers, but we'd obviously have champions. And like, if I had the choice, I'd use number one next year or next season. But because of the game, I can't. So if you had like a league where you can edit everything in it, and it's kind of like Discord but on the F1 game, so you can see like, oh, here are the results, here's the championship standings. So then as it transitions from season to season, you could have, oh yes, this champion, so he can have number one on his car.
Yeah. I mean, I think that right now you're just trying to rub it in that you won a championship and I didn't. But no, in all seriousness, I do see where you're coming from. I think that would be a really good idea. Because you can also look at, I think that'd be good for like applying for a league. You can look at like the history of it and things like that.
Yeah, because
Um,
I know when I started, I mean, I'd I'd heard of Discord before, but I never really used it, so I was a bit apprehensive of, you know, because when you look at it, and like especially like when you join a server, there's so many different like options, and I was just like, what is this? So especially if it's someone who's like trying to join their first league, it might be a bit uh, overwhelming and confusing to look on Discord. So trying to simplify it, and also I'm sure.
yeah, so
Oh,
so
carry on.
sort of use a Discord like function in the game.
Yeah. So you could leave like the chat rooms and stuff, but you could have like the results, championship standings, and all that. So people can look at it and be like, oh, okay, this is what the league is, or this is my results. If like they're not, I d- I mean, pretty much everyone's technologically, I don't know, adept. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but yeah, just for those people who might not feel comfortable using Discord, I find that it's quite
Yeah.
a hassle. Um, oh, and this is an important one as well, is with custom cars being able to link them together into a team. Because we've seen this a lot in, obviously, our tier 2, 3, and 4 all use custom cars, and esports use custom cars. And the fact that, you can have two drivers in the same team, like, as in the same team in that tier, but they're not the same team in the game, is quite off-putting. Because I know in esports
Yeah.
we've had
So
it, trying to figure
yeah,
out
there are
who's
like
in what
different
pit.
characters and stuff.
Yeah. Um, so I feel like that would be quite a useful thing that obviously you'd have to have that league in this league system. I don't know how easy it would be to implement in just like a random race.
Or even if you entered it like you do for a custom grid,
True, yeah.
they could make it so you can assign pit boxes to different cars as if you do for custom grid would be probably the simplest way around it.
Yeah, that would be good.
That's
Um,
something you could add into a league actually. If you do or not like that, but I mean sort of if you do the regular cars, you can change like the pit garages. So say for season one of TTM in tier one, Red Bull won constructors, so we could move them to the first pit box on the pit lane,
mhm.
and then like Ferrari second, and then the order of the constructors. Um, I feel like that'd be a pretty cool because it would add more customization even to the tracks at least.
Yeah, because I do think that's customization is the main thing where this game or last year's game can be improved upon. Because another customization thing that I'd like to see is being able to do more stuff in single player races. So like change the grid up. I know I can't remember when it was. I think it was like the 2004 game. You could like literally pick a driver and be like, Schumacher's starting P10, I'm starting P1, and you could change every driver. And I feel like that would be uh, quite a good thing to like mix it up, because obviously when the career mode can sometimes get a bit stale, and then you're not online racing all the time, so something to mix it up. Oh, there was something else I was going to say as well. Oh, what was it? I've just had a
I
thought.
think
It's just gone.
I think
Mm.
it just needs to be sort of refreshed a little bit. I have a feeling that you've just thought of it.
Yeah. So the I can't remember what they're called now. They're not challenges. Um,
Do you mean the invitational events?
no. The other one. You can
The
like
other one.
yeah. So if you're on the single player bit, you've got I can see the layout in my head. You've got normal career mode, my team, Grand Prix, time trial, and then the one at the bottom,
Championships.
championships. That's it. Um, Making them more customizable because I love doing the sprint mode, uh, championship ones, but it's the same 5 tracks every time. If you could like go in and be like, all right, we this time I want to go to China, then France, then Australia, and like properly mix it up. I feel like that would be really good. Um, and yeah, it's just improving on that customization, which I feel like is one of the main things that they need to do, and hopefully, fingers crossed, um, they can do. So, me personally, I've only got 2 more points that I think could be um, sort of changed. We've touched on storylines, and I think having this going back to career modes slash my team, having more impactful choices in your interviews could be quite good. So rather than having like 4 options, or if like you're talking about, I know it kind of does it already, um, but be like you could be asked a question, oh, it's coming to the end of the season now. You know, your second driver has been doing all right. Is his seat safe? And you could pick like, oh yeah, he's safe, and like that will boost his morale. You could be like, oh, you know, the seat's open at the moment. You know, but looking around, and he could have like a negative effect, and then that could affect like contract negotiations.
Yeah, and something I noticed about interviews in the game is a bit sort of off of what you've been saying, but they always I can't remember, is it Claire? I think her name is. You always get asked um say you get asked like 3 questions. You get asked 2 sort of good questions like, oh, that was a really good drive today. Do you feel like that was worthy of the car or whatever? But then you get like a third question that's like, if you answer it, all the answers you get are always wrong. Like any way you answer
Yeah,
it, it always has a negative effect.
yeah, definitely. I think they need to vary up the questions, which I know is difficult because obviously if you have like a crazy race, they they're like script interviews to be like basic stuff that would happen in a race. Um,
Mm.
but I feel like even having like different scenarios, you know, you could have. I know they don't. Well, no, they do have the press conference room now. But like if you're on the podium, you know, you could be asked questions in Park Fermi or in that like little where you park your cars up, um, and stuff like that. I feel like that could be quite good. Um, and my last point that I want to touch on, it kind of goes back to the tyres. But obviously this year we saw, or last year, I keep saying this year, but last year we saw at Turkey, the track and the tyres just not working together. And I can't remember which year it was, but I remember at Brazil one year, it was really hot and the tyres weren't working. And I feel like having like 1 or 2 races this season where you just have, I don't know, a crazy weather event, or you have a storyline sort of tied into it that the track's been resurfaced and the tyres don't react how they're expected to react.
Yeah, I mean, um, I think the way that that would have to be done as well is, I think that it wouldn't just have to be the driver who struggles. The whole field would have to struggle
Yeah,
because I think
definitely.
that's where they're not quite right with their AI at the moment. Is that like, for example, like wet conditions, um, you can be really struggling like just to get the car or to keep the car on the track, whereas the AI are like, you know, they're just flat out constantly, and they end up lapping you and things like that, and it doesn't make the experience enjoyable. And I remember although they've dulled it down now, but the 2019 AI were very very fast on their starts.
Yeah, I
Like no
remember
matter
that.
what you did, you could not catch them. And I think it's just that bit of like overpowered um, AI that it kind of makes it a bit less enjoyable.
Yeah, I so like as well. Adding on that, you could have like we've seen it before where okay, yes, your Hamiltons, your Verstappens, they might still be quick in the wet when it comes to a wet part of the race, but you could have like some midfield team like switch on their tires and be ridiculously quick and make up time and get onto a podium maybe. Because I feel like most if you like simulated season after season, well, I know the cars their performance changes, but say if you just simulated a bog standard season, it would be probably Mercedes Red Bull podium all year. I don't think they'd have that like crazy Monza race or crazy Bahrain race like we've have in real life.
Yeah, just something to change it up and sort of give opportunities not only to like the player but also to um the AI around. So like if say for like a Williams, if they have like a completely crazy race, where they started like last, they could end up coming through to score like points or a top five or something like that, where it's just not expected at all, but it still happens, and you
Yeah,
get like new winners and things like that. I think that would be a real step up in the sort of AI for Codemasters.
yeah. I think their AI have definitely got better, but I think that unpredictability could be improved upon. I'm trying to think if
Yeah,
there's
it they're still sort of like you say, they're still quite kind of predictable. Um, and they always do the same thing. And although they've sort of capitalized with the mistakes, like sometimes they'll make a mistake, but a player can make three or four sort of costly mistakes throughout a race distance. And that's sort of like 50% race distance. Whereas the AI will make one and then they'll be flat out for the rest of it,
mm,
constantly on the same line. Um, I didn't I know it's a really difficult sort of subject of how to program that, but it I don't think it doesn't like need to be addressed, but I think it would be something that would definitely improve the game.
yeah, it'd be nice to have it improved, but it's not one of the key features that we want to improve in, or one of the first features that we want to improve in.
Yeah, like it it's one of those that needs developing, but it can wait until the rest is all done.
Yeah. So sorry, buddy, because I know we've been waffling on about single player again, or career mode, but if so, like we were talking about with I don't know one-off races being crazy, do you think that would be good for league racing? You could have I don't know if you I don't know how you'd do it because I feel like again you'd need like a sort of league page where it would like track races and stuff. But would you want to see like one-off random races where you rock up to I don't know you rock up to France and the medium and hard tire don't work as well, and it's like 3 seconds a lap slower than it or 2 seconds a lap slower than it should be. Do you think that could be something that benefits league racing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it would just change up the sort of yeah, just change up the normal dynamic that the races tend to follow. Of the obviously, there's always a few drivers that are faster than the majority of the field that break away at the front. They then get I say the privilege. They've sort of earned it, but they get the option to then just go for the safe um, pit, and then they tend to keep their lead. So unless a safety car comes out and everyone behind them, or they just pit and then everyone behind doesn't, it's sort of just that same script it tends to follow. So I feel that sort of unpredictability could definitely bring a bit more back into the league racing.
Yeah, because obviously we don't want. Or this is why like unpredictable races are quite special. Is that they don't happen all the time. So we obviously don't want every race to be like, oh, there's zero grip on this track again. But I feel like bringing that bit of unpredictability and lot. It was like I mean, we're gonna talk about probably next week esports, but we had a race where you know things weren't looking too good, and then it started to rain, and that like just flipped the race on its head. So I feel like that could be quite good. Not necessarily like the raining part, but like if a certain tyre doesn't work, or I don't know, your engineer says, oh yeah, you can do the one stop, but then at the end of the race, or with like 3 or 4 laps to go, bam, people start getting punctures. Like not every race, but every now and again.
Yeah, like what happened at Silverstone this year.
Yeah,
No one was expecting to get punctures. Then suddenly Hamilton finished the race on 3 tyres. We had Sainz, his tyre went.
yeah. Obviously, I think did Bottas end up retiring as well, or I don't think he scored any
Bottas did
points.
retire, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no, Bottas came 11th, I believe,
yeah. So I feel
because
like
his tyre exploded at the start of I think it had 3 laps to go, maybe.
yeah. I think that rings a bell. Um, I think the last thing to touch upon uh, is just sorting out glitches. I think that's probably along with stable lobbies. I think glitches are the top thing that they need to get on top of. 'Cause I mean, when was it? Two weeks ago in our tier 3 race, we had a safety car glitch where the safety car came out. I don't know whether it was because a couple of people disconnected or what, but it then just stayed out, which obviously isn't good for a league race because then we have to restart. Have you guys experienced any crazy glitches?
Not to that extent that you've just mentioned, no, but one thing that I'd like them to fix for the next game, or hopefully even before the next game, would be the sort of the formation lap glitch that sort of unstables the lobby a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
Obviously, I know that
Oh no, Karen, sorry.
we in TTM run no safety car, sorry, no formation lap now, as well as a few of the other leagues that I race in. That it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it does take something away from the race not having that formation lap.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they might have fixed it. I know we've got because we've got our mini series coming up. I think we're trialing it in there to see how that goes. But it's just little bugs like that that are just annoying. What about you, Brenda? Have you experienced any like little bugbears or big glitches?
Um, I don't know. I don't think I've had anything that's been sort of. I mean, I blame a lot of the problems on the game. I think most people do when things go wrong. Um, I'm not sure if I've had any sort of big things. I remember in Vietnam for our tier 1 race, everyone seemed to be okay with their tires apart from me, who had like the hottest tires on the circuit, and I was just getting no grip out of them. I don't know if that was a glitch with the game itself or whether it was just to do with my tire pressures, but I don't know. The formation lap did cause, like you say, I think it did cause a lot of the problems, and I'm not sure if it's been fixed. I know that in my other league, we run the formation lap, and um, it seems to work okay, but I don't want to be quoted on that because the game is very temperamental with things like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, um, no, I don't think I've had anything sort of big where it's sort of um, stopped me from racing in that way, apart from maybe like joining lobbies with excessive loading times and things like that, where it's just not working. But yeah, there is multiple little problems with it. Um, Track limits, I think, is another one in when running strict. There's a space at Abu Dhabi on the penultimate corner where if you run too wide, even if you don't leave the track, you still get a penalty or you get a warning. And there was another one at Brazil at the end of the pit lane where if you're not coming out the pit lane, if you're going through turn 3, if you keep it too tight to the pit wall, there's a little sort of section that you go over, and if you go over that, it gives you a warning, which I actually got a penalty for.
Actually, that is a good point about track limits. I do think they should be looked at, because I don't know how you do it, because obviously the FIA changed their mind race to race on what track limits are, but where is it? USA, coming out of sector 1, there's that sort of right left, and on the left hander before like the sort of mini straight before the long straight, if you get where I am.
Yeah, up the hill.
Yeah,
Yeah, the left hander up the hill.
yeah. Everyone runs wide on that exit, but you can't do that in the game. Or I'm trying to think of other examples where there's other tracks where you go on the curb, or F1 in real life, F1 drivers can go on the curb, and as long as they're on the curb, they're okay. Whereas in the game, you're a millimeter over the line, bam, warning
Yeah.
penalty. So I
I
think,
think they should extend the track limits a little bit, just to like the other side of the curb.
yeah,
So if you go over the curb, then yeah, fair enough. But if you sort of ride it, or go right to the edge of it, then that should still be okay, because it's technically still a part of the track, and it's like we saw in Mugello. Was it Mugello? I think it was, where they were literally just straight
yeah, it was,
right in the
yeah.
corners. And I think that not as extreme as that as Magello, but that sort of idea should be implemented.
Yeah, there was. Oh, going back to glitches quickly. There was. I'm trying to look for it now, but I can't find it. Oh no, there's two glitches that I want to talk about. Um, there was one, and I think he's either an esports driver or he's something to do with Veloce, and he was doing a league race, and he was battling away, and it was round Belgium, and his car just like sank through the ground, and then it would like pop back up, and he'd lose like 10 seconds. Then that kept happening to him. So it's stuff like big stuff like that needs to stop. I mean, luckily none of us have ever had it, and I don't think anyone in TTM has ever had a glitch quite that big.
No, but you saying that has made me think of another one actually. I don't know if you ever saw TRL Limitless. He got kicked after qualifying in Baku, and when he joined back, um, his tires were at like minus 270 degrees or something.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I
that's
think
not
he ended
good.
up DNFing or something, because he couldn't actually keep the car on the track. But it was such a huge problem, and that's just like, just you saying that about other glitches made me think of that.
The last glitch that I've thought of, and I think it got fixed, maybe, but at the top of my head I can't think if it's fixed right now. Is on time trial, and I don't know if I don't know if it's still a thing, but there's been so many times where I go into time trial, look on, because I'm like looking for setups or whatever, look on the worldwide page, and first place is like 4 seconds quicker than anyone else,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, that's obviously not a lap. They've either like corner cut or I don't know what they've done, but how is that being allowed? I feel like they should know a theoretical cutoff for what a fastest time should be, or be like if it's a second quicker than anyone else, it should be
Yeah.
disallowed.
There was a glitch at the start of the game when it first came out, involving time trial, and it used the flashback, where usually on now I'm pretty sure it's been fixed, but if you use the flashback, you could give it would like sort of boost you forwards,
Yeah,
and that would save you, or it would give you so much time. And I know one person who did it. I won't name them, but I know someone who did it and went into like the top 10. Um, and it was just it. You can't catch that. Like, there's no way you're gonna get to that.
yeah.
And
Oh, sorry.
like you say, I feel like there should be a cutoff where if you're under a certain time, it doesn't count it.
Yeah, definitely. Like if because I know some drivers are like ridiculously quick. Like I don't know if a track's if people in like I don't know the 108s or something. If someone's then puts in a time of a 104, you should have like a cut-off time that is a 106 or something. Because
Yeah,
people will obviously probably find time, but there is then a limit to how quick someone could go.
yeah, I
Um,
agree.
oh, what was it? I had another one then. Oh yeah, I don't think it wasn't on this year's game. I think it was on 2019 or 2018. But there was a thing in time trial where around France, if you started your lap off the track and stayed off the track for the entire race, for the entire lap, which obviously you can do, because France has got loads of run-off areas, you could then set a lap that's like half a minute quicker than
Yeah,
the
I
actual
remember that.
track.
I remember
That was quite a funny one. But I think that's all the stuff I want to see. Have you two got anything else that you'd like to see?
that. No, I think we covered
No.
everything.
And obviously,
Maybe.
hopefully with EA, uh, the right stuff will change. I know before they've kind of been criticised with microtransactions, um, but fingers crossed if it's the same team on F1, it should be a good game and should continue this progression uh, and be better than last year. Seeing as I don't think we've got any other F1 news to touch on or anything. Hamilton's still
No.
not signed.
I did read a little article about that yesterday on the actual F1 site that was quite interesting with Toto Wolff saying that it's very much just the lawyers writing stuff now. And I believe he said he hopes that it will all be sorted by the first race in Bahrain. But saying hope doesn't mean it will be. So it'll be interesting to see what they do if he isn't signed up by Bahrain.
Yeah, this was something that I saw someone do a video on it. I think it was the race did a video on it, and it's a bit like it's kind of like unheard of someone, especially a champion, not signing this late on. But I know that in the video they talked about Senna, and back in I can't remember which year it was, but basically he didn't sign a full year deal until like halfway through the season, and he was just being paid like race by race, which I don't see the benefit of doing that, especially
I
well
think
No.
that was 93 with
yeah
McLaren.
back then if you're I don't know you're arguing over price or benefits or whatever, but I feel like yeah I just feel like having it this late on the there might be some truth to some of the stuff that's coming out, but I mean I feel like he'll still probably sign, and
Yeah.
the Hamilton era will continue on to another year.
Yeah, it's getting a bit silly now, and it'll be sort of. It's starting to get to the point where if he does sign, it'll be a little bit insulting because we've waited so long to find out.
Yeah. Um. Oh, there was another bit of F1 news I was gonna say. Oh, have you seen how Alfa Romeo are naming their cars as well?
No.
No?
So last year's car, what was the C39? This year's car is just the C41, and then 2022's car is going to be the C40,
Right.
which
Right.
I can't remember why they're. I'm just giving it a quick Google now. F1 car name. I don't know why they're doing that, but that just seems really stupid to me.
Yeah, I mean they usually follow. Although to be fair, with like Ferrari, they'd had um they had the SF 1000, didn't they, last year?
Oh yeah,
Um, but I can't remember what it was before that. The SF 90, I think it was called.
yeah.
So they went from 90 to 1,000. So, I mean, they did have their 1,000th GP in Mugello. So maybe I imagine that probably had quite a significant part of naming the car,
Yeah.
but still.
Well, I think SF90 was 90 years in F1, wasn't it? No,
Yes,
it
it
can't have been
was.
90 years.
I think it was.
I was just
Or 90 years of Ferrari, it might have been.
yeah. All right, so I've just found out why Alpha's cars are named how they are, but apparently, because obviously they were planning on having the new regs this year, so they had named their car already the C40, and now that they've been pushed back a
Oh,
year,
that makes sense.
yeah. Although I feel like you could have just done it the C39B, because I know
Yeah.
McLaren have got like the MCL 35M, with obviously M for Mercedes.
Yeah, they used to do that a lot with the chassis numbers. You had like the Williams FW14B
Yeah,
is like the letter on the end referred to the chassis number of the car.
yeah, very very strange, but uh, when's pre-season testing? Like 2 months time. Well, hopefully next month we'll start getting some cars being revealed, or they should be pretty much similar to last
I think
year's.
Alpha have already revealed their date of the 22nd of Feb.
So just over a month's time, and we'll start having juicy F1 cars to look at. Um, but as for the podcast, I think that's it for this week. Unless you guys have anything else you want to add on?
Nope, not from me.
No, I think we've gone over everything.
So as always, guys, we hope you enjoyed. Hope you're all staying safe in these uncertain times. Next week, I know we said this week we're going to do tier 2, but next week should be tier 2 and also esports talk, and hopefully we'll have either the tier 2 champion on or someone who's been part of both tier 2 and the esports side of TTM. But yeah, as always, hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next week.